Hello, how are you? So excited to be with you today and just get to chat a little bit and share some stuff that's been coming up for me and this really fun topic that shadow work unlocks abundance, which is kind of, I'm sure you're kind of like, how? What about shadow work is related to abundance? And so I'm going to tell you today what it is. It's interesting. The energy as of late has been really freaking potent. And I believe, at least what I've seen with my clients lately, is that we're able to see some of the things that we have not been able to, some of the things that were formerly blocked for us. There seems to be, like, the veil seems to be thinner. There seems to be more opportunity to see the truth behind something. So you may have noticed your psychic senses are up lately, or you're just getting bigger kind of ahas and epiphanies. And that's actually what happened to me last weekend. So I want to tell a little story to give you some context for what I'm going to be sharing today. And essentially, I was meditating last weekend with my boyfriend. We were doing this really incredible meditation. And I was sitting there and I was just thinking about life and what I wanted to create and just all that kind of fun stuff. And it was a heart-centered meditation. So it was about opening your heart. And in that moment, as I was opening up to do the breath work and just all the things that was happening in the meditation, really sinking into my heart, I was able to see an aspect of myself that had been blocked before. For whatever reason, by the grace of the divine, I was able to see this part of myself where I had been operating from a defended heart versus an open heart. And so a lot of times in life, we think we're coming from this really loving place, just only to realize we're still coming from our old operating system. We might even still be coming from victimhood, and it's okay. It's just part of our growth and our evolution, right? But what was so interesting is once I had this realization, I started thinking about how much I was resisting in the present moment because of the way I had this defended heart around this particular issue in my personal life. And I started really thinking about it, and I was like, I am resisting life right now by coming from this contracted space. So I want you to think about where you are right now in your life. Think about all the things that are happening for you and identify today, whether it's been today or even just this week, where you're experiencing resistance. You'll know because it's that place where you feel like stickiness energetically. It feels kind of like you're, like, I always call it like energetic sandpaper. Like it just like rubs you the wrong way. Like you're just not feeling good about something. Maybe a conversation with somebody or something that you have to do or whatever. But just like identify that, because that is where you may be finding, through just the way that you're showing up towards your life, that you're coming from more of a contraction. And when you come from a contracted space, you could have all your defenses of why you're coming from that, because you're coming from that based on the past. So if you are reacting to a certain situation in your life, there's a really good chance that your reactivity is because you have an association to something similar from the past. So we think sometimes we're showing up as like these really open-minded, blank slates, and in reality, we're not, because we're coming from a place of all of our history. That's why it's so important to release the past so that you can just be very open-minded for what's happening in the now moment. But back to my story, when I was experiencing, feeling this resistance and realizing I'm coming from a defended heart and that it had an association with the pain that I had experienced in the past and all this kind of stuff, it was literally like I was able to see some of my shadows, because it's not something that I wanted to readily even admit to myself. It was more of something that I was so defended. I thought I was so right that I couldn't even see the truth of what was really happening. And it was such a great teaching for me and such a great moment that I had, because as soon as I had the awareness that I was coming from a space of defensiveness, I got to ask myself, what would love do? What would my heart do if I really trusted that life was not just doing this to me, but actually life has orchestrated this situation for me so that I can evolve and I can move forward, right? So I want you to think about, if you're unfamiliar with shadow work is that unconscious material that's in your blind spot. Like you can't see it, even if it's there, but you usually see it through your, like a way to like kind of clue in on it, and is through what you're triggered by. That's what I was asking you. What are you resisting right now in your life? So if you've identified that, it's really important to start asking the deeper questions of where is this resistance coming from, really somatically, like not just in your intellectual, like, okay, well, I have this story because my mom did this to me, or my whoever in my past treated me this way, and so therefore I respond in this manner. That's intellectual. Like, yeah, you may have sat in therapy, you may have figured these things out. Great. I love that. That's a big part of it. And how do you feel somatically in your body when you're faced with your resistance? Because that is going to dictate a lot of your behavior. How do you act when you're triggered? Do you shut down? Do you get overwhelmed and just like want to check out and go numb out and go have a drink, or go turn on the TV and watch like a whole series of Netflix? Or what do you do? There's something that you have a behavioral pattern. And that's my job. Like, I love to like identify patterns for my clients, but you have a pattern that is your operating system for when you face resistance in your life. But when you start to go into your body and start to notice how you're really feeling, the sensations, all that kind of stuff, you can start to ask the deeper questions of where am I really coming from? Is this about is this more my ego, or is this my heart? Am I trusting life? Am I contracted right now? Am I feeling expanded? Because that's going to help you to see if this is a shadow or not. And luckily for me this weekend, I was able to see very clearly, like I had the awareness, but then I noticed how my whole body viscerally was responding to fear. Because that's part of my shadow work that I was doing, is on fears, unfounded fears in the present moment that are tied into my past. So when you start to notice what's coming up for you and start to feel into it, you start to work with those shadows, and then they won't sabotage you much. I did a post yesterday about how our shadow work, if we're not doing it, it will literally sabotage us, because you'll be going towards something in life. You'll be doing something incredible, getting the promotion, have the amazing relationship, and you might find that you can't sustain it. And it's not because something's wrong with you. It's because your nervous system, your physical body will find a way when you get overwhelmed to go back to your triggered pattern. And then that pattern can sabotage the greatness that you're experiencing in your life. So you really, like, the greatest tool you can ever have in this life is to get to know yourself so deeply that you start to recognize when you're like, I call it peacing out, when you're like, I can't deal with this anymore. And what are the patterns that you have when you peace out? And so in the situation I had this really incredible realization that if I'm resisting and defended because of, I was doing my shadow work. This isn't fun, right? Your shadow work's not going to be fun. I'm working towards something that I want for the future. So I'm a futurist. So I always teach my clients, like, you want to move, like there's a gap between who you are today and where you want to go. And so I have a clear definition, idea, vision in my mind of where I want to go in the future. But if I am resisting what is happening right now in my present moment, in my life, due to unconscious behaviors and patterns that are related to my past, I am going to continue to loop. I may get to my future at some point, but it's going to take longer. It may be more challenging because I'm creating suffering. So the trick with this is if you want to get to to become who you've identified that you want to be in the future, which let's say for most of us, it's wildly abundant. Who doesn't want to be abundant? Then you've got to do the work. And it's not sexy. I am so like the healing industry right now, that is like a whole nother thing I could be talking, like that's a whole nother live I need to do. But healing industry, wants to give you this like 1, 2, 3 step approach to becoming a whole being or whatever. And it's like, no, the truth is healing is challenging at times and it pushes you to your limits and your edge, but it's incredible because once you do the work. So for me, doing the work was sitting in my discomfort last weekend, like really sitting in it and being like, okay, what is this trying to show me? What is this teaching me? And I realized, I said, I was resisting something in my life. I was resisting feeling something because of the pain. And that was my shadow work, was seeing how it was sabotaging my current reality due to a past energetic template or operating system or pattern, whatever you want to call it, rooted in my past. So if you want to become the best manifester, the best futurist, like bringing in the realities that you want, my trick for you today, it's not even a trick, is learn how to be with all the frequencies that are present in your current reality. Do not resist the pain. Deal with it head on because it is trying to inform you. Life is designed so incredibly to show you where you are stuck in a pattern because it keeps happening. There's repetition, right? There's repetition in your life. You're like, well, God, why does this keep happening with this? I had it with this one person and now it keeps happening over here. I find this all the time with my clients is the area that they are having trouble in, like with their work, there's a pattern, let's just say, a sabotage. Guess what? It's happening in all areas of their life in some subtle way because it's a pattern that dictates who they are based on the reality and the lens they've created from the past. So if you want to shift, if you want to become wildly abundant and become your future self, then be open to what life is bringing you right now. Do not resist something because you're trying to outsmart life. That's what I was trying to do this week. And I was like, oh, I don't want to feel this. And then I was like, oh, no, God, okay, I got to be with it. And in that, you realize that you don't have to go searching. Everybody thinks, I have to heal. It's like, well, no, life brings you every single day what you need. It informs you based on what is going on. And I want you to realize that your future, your brilliant future that you are creating, that you are moving towards, so that abundance, whether for you it's your relationship, money, promotion, I don't know, whatever it is for you, you don't get there by bypassing. You may think, you may see people on the internet and you're like, oh my God, look, they're like a multimillionaire and they have all these things and it looks so easy. I snap my fingers and boom. Yeah, but do they keep it? And are they happy? I love seeing all that stuff. But what my point to that is they're not showing the work behind the scenes that it takes to hold that. Like I admire people that have incredible things happening for them. Like I love it. I love to see the examples of that. And I know if it's something that they're going to maintain and they're truly happy people, or like, let's say content. I won't even say happy. There's work that that they're meeting themselves constantly. You're like new level, new devil. Like you are meeting new versions of yourself. That's what's happening in my life right now. I'm up leveling. So as I up level, I'm having to meet these aspects of myself and see where I'm sabotaging because I want to move towards my brilliant future. So the brilliant future, because there's different qualities of futures, dark, dim, bright, brilliant. The brilliant future contains all the frequencies. That means that you don't resist. That means you deal with what's going on, therefore you can grow, you evolve, you expand. You may be in a contraction right now in your life, but if you sit with it and you train your nervous system, your physical body to be okay with it, you eventually go from the contraction to the expansion. And you realize that the shadow work literally is there to help illuminate where you're sabotaging so you can receive the abundance that you want, so you can get out of the patterning. And what's incredible about that is when you tell life that, because if you resist a certain part of life, like if you resist being angry about something, like let's say something in your process is you around anger. If you resist anger, you're going to resist the opposite frequency, which might be joy. So if you keep telling the universe, I can only deal with this much energetically, you can only hold and receive that much. But if you're like, hey, I have the energy to hold it all. Like, I'm not afraid of life. Like, I'm dealing with, I trust, if you say, I trust myself to be able to have the capacity to experience this difficulty, this pain. I'm not going to resist it. I'm going to surrender. So then you get this opportunity, last but not least, when you receive all the frequencies of the brilliant future, to start flowing with life or go back to resistance. And so it's always a game. And for me, it's like I have resistance a lot. But now I know that in order, you hear people say crush timelines or quantum leap and all this kind of stuff. And, oh, let me snap my finger and it's going to happen. And it's like, probably not. I've been healing people for years. Like, that's my specialty, is I help people. And I've seen people quantum leap. And I've also had to see people do the work and take their time with it and learn how to sustain a certain frequency and integrate and do all the things. But I will tell you what will quantum leap and bring you the most abundance is when you stop fighting life and you start to trust the divine design and start to deal with your own stuff so that you can receive. Like, it's the fastest way to receive, because when you receive all of you're able to receive all of what the universe wants to bring you. And it's really incredible. So fun. If you are interested in working with me, I am taking on a one-on-one client, just one right now before the end of the year. And I also have my group program that's going to be starting last week of October, called Destined. It's a 7-month intimate group of women where we are going to be journeying together for, like I said, 7 months, and really destined. I mean, listen to the name. It's like clearing up your past so you can see what you're destined for, like what type of life. It's really calling it in, not just through manifestation, but actually doing the shadow work and recognizing the patterns that you're looping in that keep you staying stuck. Basically what I was talking about in this video, so that you can start to feel safe enough to flow with life and surrender to life, so that you can receive all the abundance, all the prosperity consciousness that you desire. So if you want to learn more, I'm going to put the link in the comments. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'd love any feedback. Any questions, message me, and I will see you next week.